Hey, good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. For 6 years now, family, friends, officers, even the FBI have joined in the search for a missing mother in Bardstown, Kentucky.
And WHAS11 reporter who moved here, get this, the same week that Crystal Rogers went missing, has done more than just report this story. Shay McAlister has just poured her heart into helping solve the mystery that's been plaguing this small town, telling the stories, connecting with folks throughout the region, and it's been quite a story to tell.
Yeah, take a look.
Bardstown, Kentucky is a small town in the heart of the Bluegrass State. The kind of town you can wander around in for a few hours and feel like you're back in time. But Bardstown, Kentucky also has secrets. Over 3 years, 5 tragedies, all of them unsolved.
We're getting desperate. We need a good tip called in. It's too silent.
It all started in 2013. When a 33-year-old Bardstown police officer was found on a lonely stretch of highway, gunned down in the middle of the night.
The police car is sitting in the middle of the road with the lights on. I believe somebody's hit him.
Just over a year later, a mother and her teenage daughter are brutally murdered inside their home.
As parents, we pray that Kathy died first so she didn't have to witness the vicious death her child suffered.
The next year, a 35-year-old mother disappears. And then, her grieving father is shot and killed.
We were an innocent family that got caught up in a nightmare.
I'm not forgiving nobody that murdered my granddaughter and my son. If I have to go to hell for that, I guess I'll go, because I'm not forgiving them.
Hundreds of police interviews and years of investigation, rumors and theories, and still no one behind bars.
I've been 100% truthful. Listen to what I'm saying. You listen to what I'm saying. I've been 100% truthful.
Are the Bardstown cases connected? Why is a killer still on the loose? And who has the key to unlock the string of murders in Bardstown?
Can you tell if he is breathing?
People in Bardstown want answers.
No, sir, he is not breathing.
Bardstown, a new podcast from Vault Studios, available now.
So what you were listening to was the trailer for the podcast that Shay did in partnership with Vault Studios. It's called Bardstown. That's available now wherever you listen to podcasts.
I get chills just listening to that.
I really
do.
I really do.
For the last week and a half, the search for evidence as to what happened to Crystal has taken a huge turn. Federal agents have been in Bardstown specifically searching underneath the driveway of a home in the Woodlawn Springs subdivision. Officials announced they've actually found some items of interest, but no word yet on what those may be.
So we are lucky enough to have Shay join us now to break all of this down, and I'll mention we were going to have Shay on the show yesterday, but we realized she had not had a day off in more than 10 days. So Shay, I hope you are at least as well rested as you can be after working that long of a stretch. We know you've been covering this case, and you've done so in a way that is stellar. And as someone who's from Bardstown, I can certainly appreciate what you've done in getting the facts out. Let's start with what Claudia was just mentioning. We know there's been searches on a particular home recently, and an item of interest, which is a very vague term when it comes to investigation. What can you tell us about what's happening right now in this investigation?
Sure. So the best place to start for this most recent development is Tuesday of last week. That's when I started getting texts from homeowners in the area sending me pictures of an FBI evidence truck parked in front of their house. So I immediately called the FBI, trying to figure out what they could be doing there. It had been about a year since we had heard from the FBI in terms of their investigative efforts. Last summer, they brought 150 agents to Bardstown to serve tons of search warrants. They were going to be interviewing more than 100 people. They made all of this very public. And then for about a year, we don't hear anything. So last Tuesday, I called them, and sure enough, they were executing search warrants on, they told us, properties in the Woodlawn Springs subdivision. So at first, we just headed down there. We didn't know exactly why they were there or what they were doing. But a little bit more investigation, and specifically looking at public records, showed us that Hauk Rentals, which is run by Brooks Hauk, owned 3 properties in this neighborhood. Brooks Hauk, of course, is the main suspect in Crystal Rogers' disappearance, though he has never been charged in connection to the case. He was her boyfriend when she went missing. So we got down there and we immediately noticed that the FBI was focused on one property. We had a drone go up over that property so we could see what they were looking at. And they were looking at the front yard and the backyard on day 1. By day 2, they had narrowed in on the front yard. And by day 3, they were completely focused on the driveway. But what was below the driveway? They were bringing in heavy machinery. They were pulling up all these massive pieces of concrete and really digging underneath the driveway. By Friday, they had announced they found their first item of interest. We have no idea what that item could possibly be. But the FBI kept searching all the way through the weekend. And on Monday, they told us they found multiple items of interest. Again, we have no idea what that means. They said that they do believe they are possibly connected to the disappearance of Crystal Rogers, but right now they're all of those items are in Quantico, Virginia at the FBI's main evidence lab undergoing further testing. The reality, and I've been telling people this all week, is that even if the FBI finds that one of these items is crucial to this case, we may not know about that for possibly years, if ever. You know, one of the only ways that we would find out about this is, number one, the FBI decides to reveal that information, or number two, it comes out later in court if charges are filed in this case.
And Shay, when we started the toss to you, we mentioned, you know, your first week kind of upon arriving here at WHAS was, welcome to Louisville. We're going to put you into this missing persons case. Did you ever imagine, as you look back, that it would take as many twists and turns? And how did we get to this point? I mean, while you're kind of explaining how we got here, we have a graphic, a timeline that we want to kind of show what these big, significant moments have been.
Sure. So when you look back at the last 6 years, you know, Crystal went missing on the weekend of 4th of July, 2015. And right away, her family knew it was serious. But they tell me that they didn't feel like the law enforcement agency at the time, which was the Nelson County Sheriff's Office, was really taking them seriously, which, if I'm being honest, in my experience covering unsolved cases, it's not that uncommon. You know, adults are allowed to go missing. Adults are allowed to walk away from their life. So oftentimes police are pretty hesitant before they go all in on an investigation of a missing adult. That's exactly what happened with Crystal Rogers. So for the first couple of days, it was really just family and friends trying to call each other and look for her. The first big piece of evidence that I think clued everyone into something bigger happening here was when her car was found abandoned on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway. Her keys, her phone, and her purse were inside that car, and there was no sign of Crystal. So after that, a lot of people joined the search, a lot of the community. I think police started kind of picking up their interest in the search, and the Nelson County Sheriff took on the case. So for the first 3 or 4 months, there were search efforts. There was searches executed at different properties. There was a lot of community searching, And October of 2015, a couple of months after she goes missing, the sheriff says that Brooks Houck, her former boyfriend, is the main suspect in her disappearance. That same press conference, he also reveals that Crystal Rogers is presumed dead. There has been no sign of life for several months. And on that same day, Nick Houck, who is Brooks' brother, is fired from his position as a Bardstown police officer. So at this point, all eyes in the community are on the Houck family. Seemingly, many eyes from the police department and the sheriff's office are on the Houck family. And that's where we see a lot of the shift of focus. So over the next year, we see searches on Houck properties, such as the family farm, which is the last place where Crystal was known to be alive. Different houses, different relatives' houses. A lot of different places are searched. Nothing comes up as far as the public knows. There's no big piece of evidence ever revealed. And then 16 months after Crystal is reported missing, her father, Tommy Ballard, is shot and killed while hunting with his grandson. I think that's the point where a lot of people in the community, possibly even police, really raise an eyebrow and think, okay, this is bigger. We need to step it up here. So the Kentucky State Police gets involved on Tommy's investigation. Crystal's investigation is still being held by the Nelson County Sheriff's Office. And really, for the next 3 years, we don't hear very much. A new sheriff takes over in the case. We know that a new investigator takes over at one point, but the next big massive development is summer 2020 when the FBI steps in and starts this investigation. They say that they actually had been working on it for many months, but they become public with it last summer. And they say they're taking the lead, they're taking this on, and that's when, like I mentioned, 150 special agents are brought in from all over the country to Bardstown just to focus on this case.
Shay, first of all, thank you for that. The ability to wrap up that much information as articulately and succinctly as you just did is phenomenal. So thank you for not just doing it, but for being capable of doing it. One thing I think we should point out is the mark of a really good reporter is when you don't have to make the initial call, right? When people are calling you to either offer information or to ask you information. And I know that's starting to become, or has been, part of your experience with Crystal Rogers' family, because you've created that level of relationship. Journalism has come off some crisis years with the conversation about fake news. So trust is everything, and I know that the family trusts you here. Can you talk on some level about your relationship now with Crystal Rogers' family?
Absolutely. I think that our relationship started right after she went missing. I remember spending my first Thanksgiving away from home, as a 22-year-old freshly out of college working in my first professional job. My assignment that day was to spend it with Crystal Rogers' family, the family of a missing woman who was going to be celebrating their first holiday without her. And that was the first time I spent any good amount of time with the family. And it's like their mission just spoke to me, just hearing how dedicated they were, and hearing more about Crystal, and meeting Tommy Ballard and getting to know Tommy Ballard on a personal level, where we would exchange text messages about the latest search efforts. And I would check in with him to find out if anything new had happened in the case. And so I actually knew Tommy and had a relationship with Tommy, and which made his death certainly more jarring, and it changes it. It's very unusual for a reporter to know someone whose case you covered before their case happens. So that was unusual, but it definitely made me feel more connected to Sherry and Crystal's mom and a lot of those family members. Over the years, I've been covering this case for 6 years, and our relationship has certainly grown. I care deeply for them. I want justice for them. And I feel very lucky to have a platform to work as a journalist where I can elevate their stories and I can elevate the FBI efforts. I can spread Crystal's name as far as we have, in order to keep attention on it and keep pressure on police to find answers. It really is a blessing to be in this position, and I feel honored that the family trusts me with their story, with their information enough that I can do it.
Shay, how is Sherry doing this week with this item of interest that's been found? Are you sensing and talking to them kind of behind the scenes that there's suddenly this hope of, we're almost there, we're going to either find her or we're near the end and we're going to bring justice to her?
Absolutely. I think that this is the most hopeful I have seen Sherry in years. I think that the family and the people closest to the family are telling me that this feels different. This doesn't feel like last summer's searches. This doesn't feel like some of the random, if you'll remember, human remains were discovered last summer. The FBI said that they possibly could belong to Crystal Rogers. We learned months later that they did not. They were not a match, and they actually have not been able to identify those remains. But after those remains were found, in talking with Sherry, she told me then she'd never thought that was Crystal. Her gut never told her, yes, this is my daughter. As compared to this week, where she has been telling me, my gut is telling me there is answers here. Wow. She and Team Crystal think that there are answers on the property where they're searching.
Well, Shay, thank you again so much. And I think Claudia and I share the same ideology here. We've both been in newsrooms working around the country, and so often there's a mentality in these morning editorial meetings. What are we going to cover today? What's the best video? And we've always disagreed with that mentality because the storytelling and the facts and the journalism should actually lead the story. So I'm so proud of the work that you're doing and have done and will continue to do. And moreover, I'm so proud of the WHAS11 newsroom for creating the environment where this is understood. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And personally, on behalf of my family in Bardstown that is nervous about this consistently and constantly, again, cannot thank you enough. We'll mention Shay will continue.
Shay. Tremendous.
Shay will continue to follow the developments in the Crystal Rogers case. You can see her reports beginning in the Big 4 at 4 and find the Bardstown podcast wherever you listen. Just search for Vault Studios.